Welcome to my very first YouTube video. My topic is high-speed Wahoo lures. And in front of you, you'll see 4 of the main type. This is a deep diving Wahoo lure. This is also a deep diving high speed, as are these. This is the style of hook that you use for these. They're large inline BKK hooks, size 9, 10, up to 13. And when trolling this lure has something very special. It has a flat front face, and you can see it here. I hold it just right. That actually acts like a diving bill. And this lure itself, you can tell by the dollar that this bill is about 9 3/4 inches and weighs about a pound. Probably about anywhere between 350 grams to 400 grams, depending on the lure. The colorful painting is things that I do. I've learned how to use some water-based colors, and these hooks, this blue one for example, I tested it and it has just a tremendous action. And so this model of hook is based on a commercially available hook, but this copy works extremely well. It runs at 8 miles an hour, and which is the speed for trolling for Wahoo. And with the big hooks, you can imagine that it is very well suited to catching large Wahoo. The largest Wahoo that I've caught has so far been 45 pounds. I've caught about 8 of them, and I've been on 2 long distance fishing trips out of San Diego, and it's been quite an eye-opener. I'm a prairie bound, so I don't get to spend a lot of time in the ocean, so I have to learn about this kind of fishing on YouTube, which has been an absolutely great resource. This pink lure, I caught a 24-pound mahi-mahi on, and I don't know if you can just see the scratches right here. Got a few war wounds. So this is one of my better hooks because it truly has caught a fish. Unfortunately, in 2020, due to COVID, I was unable to go on my trip. However, I continue to make lures. So one of the lures that we're going to make is a smaller version of this black one here. This black one is a 9 3/4 inch lure, and this white one is an 8-inch lure. So I'm just going to get this one out of the way for the moment. So what we're going to do today is we're going to put some scales on this lure. So I have many interesting tips on how to make these lures, but for today's purpose, I'm going to assume that you have a lure that you're ready to put this very shiny scales onto. So this specific lure has a weight of about 250 grams, and the lead is inside. And what I do is I make the lure in 2 pieces. I sculpt it, take it apart, dig out the inside, and then I pour lead through a hole right here. And but that's a topic for another video. So what I'm proposing to do is show you how we get to this stage here. This is what we're looking for. You see how nice and shiny that is? I don't know if you can see the, this is actually, it's got half of the scales done. This is the completed side. This is what the end product should look like. Now as we go through this, I'm going to be taking a few shortcuts because, well, you'll see in a few minutes. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with this basically blank lure. Again, it's got the flat face on it. You can see it very well. And that's actually acting like diving bell. This lure weighs right around 250 grams without the hooks. With the hooks, it's about 270, 275. So I use a very shiny material. Looks like this is paper backed. This is actual aluminum. It comes in a roll. I like to use local materials, so this is actually aluminum foil tape, HVAC grade, that I bought at Lowe's. And first thing you do is you take your roll. Now this stuff is super, super soft, and that's why I'm working on a towel. So you kind of figure out what you need, and then you cut off a piece. All right. Now it's very important that you keep this roll safe, because if you let it bounce on the floor, the roll is about $13 and can very easily be damaged. So keep it very, very safe. And when you're working on the first side, always use a towel, and as well on the other side. So this is how you start separating it. You cut the corner. Oh, and first of all, of course, you do a kind of a test fit to make sure that this fits where you want it to go. So when you get it down there without the paper, it sticks where you want to. This stuff has got a mind of its own. This stuff will drive you to drink if you're not careful, because it's very, very similar to very, very good glues. When you touch it, you're done. If you're not lined up right, you crumple it up and you start again. Now what I'm trying to do now is separate the aluminum from the paper. This is going to be a bit tedious. Oh, there we go. Notice I got in there with the scalpel. And when you pull this back, you pull it back across the entire piece of paper. Now, one of the tricks to using this stuff is you never, ever pull the aluminum off the end of the paper. The reason that is because once that free end of the aluminum gets loose, it'll bounce all over the place, and chances are you will start over again. So what you do is you line it up, you keep lots of tension on this, and you put it down, and you run your finger right over the center of the lure. Now, you find out where the tip of the lure is. It's right here where my finger is pointing. And you cut that off, because you're done with that other stuff. Also, at the back, you run it all the way back with your finger. And what you're going to be doing is taking this tin foil and working it left and right. So watch as I go. You may hear some crinkling. That is the aluminum foil complaining that it doesn't like to do what you're trying to get it to do. Now you run up and down, upper and bottom, and there will be a point where you start to get crinkles in the aluminum. So what's happening right now with the aluminum is the aluminum comes basically dead flat, and you're trying to form it around a 3D device. So you're kind of going from a 2D world to a 3D world. So you keep stroking it like this, and you can see those crinkles. I hope you can see this in the light. So, okay, so then what you do is you have a pen. I use this Pilot High Tech 0.5 is the size of the tip. But that's not what I'm using right now. I'm using the very end of it because it's got a plastic end, and that won't scratch the aluminum. So yeah, you clean off the end to make sure there's no dirt hanging on it, and then you try and work these crinkles out. Now, while you're working that, there's only two stresses that the aluminum can be under. It can be under tension or pressure. So when it's under pressure from the sides, it will try and overlap itself. And that's where you get a permanent crinkle. So notice how I'm working those crinkles out. But this big guy, I'm not sure if I can do that. See how he's crinkled up? That's a permanent crinkle. However, I have ways to make that crinkle less visible. Okay. I think you can see it there. So we're just going to move all along the side here and try and get that down. So I see we're at the 10-minute mark already. Time does fly when you're having fun. So I'm not going to spend a horrible amount of time on this. You kind of get the idea. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll cut here to allow the tape to flex a little bit. And then I usually cut off the end as well, just to get it out of the way. Then what I do is I use 1/16 inch tape, and I decide where I'm going to make my first cut. Now the beauty of this tape is, after I've put my initial guess where the tape should go, I can then move it around and make it as good as I can. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now, one of the more difficult things you've got to do is you've got to use your scalpel here and make a cut along that tape. And you got to cut hard. And if you have to move your hand, you can do that. There's a gap that the blade makes. And you got to be careful to be close to the tape, but try and stay away from the tape a little bit. Otherwise you'll just slice the tape and it won't look like you want it to. All right. So now, what you can do is you can just peel away that tape. Sometimes it's easy to do. Sometimes it's not. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this time, for example, it's torn away. And now you have to kind of work on the end a little bit with your scalpel. And that's how it comes off. Now you'll see one little piece here that's still hanging on. It doesn't mean that it's not cut. It just means that it's not going to come off because the tape seems to have a mind of its own sometimes. What I'm going to do is just going to increase the depth of that cut. Okay. Now, I see we're almost 15 minutes, so I'm going to stop right here, and then I'm going to come back with part 2.